What's good, guys? We're going to be breaking down the main event of UFC 301 Rio de Janeiro. Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. I got two threads. Shout out to Ocelot MMA for letting me use this thread. We're going to start off with Alexandre Pantoja, who obviously this was before he faced Brandon Moreno and he won the belt at UFC 290. So since then, he's defended against Brandon Royval and he will be defending against Steve Erceg in Rio de Janeiro. So we go over this fight January. It's his Shevchenko versus Pena, but he defeats Eric Shelton via split decision. He just grapples him, he holds him down, and it's all right. It's all right, it was a pretty good scrap, but for his UFC debut, it's very good. So we move down to the next one, to the next clip. I just want to go to Steve Erceg because I feel like a lot of people don't know how Steve Erceg fights, but Alexandre Pantoja is a guy who a lot of people are already realizing and think that he's going to have a long title reign. He submits Neil Seri, who I believe is no longer in the UFC no more, but just to avoid copyright, I just have to show the submission. He's able to go on top of him. He's ranked number 14. Flyweight's a little shallow, but it still puts him. It still puts his resume really good. It makes his resume look very good, and it shows that he has rear naked not only in the third, but he also has the rear naked choke in the first and second. So he's hammering him. And then he gets the submission. It's pretty tight, pretty tight. I think rear naked choke is one of his best submissions, if not his one of his only submissions that he goes to. Because I don't really see arm bars and like off the. He's never really on his back, so most of his submissions are when he's on your back. Right here, he loses via decision. Obviously, wrestling was the deciding factor, is what Ocelot MMA says, but it was 29-28 on all scorecards, and he's getting taken down. No shame, it's one of your third fights in the UFC, but this guy is no longer in the UFC no more. In the flyweight division, it's very shallow, so it kind of, it shows that he has a little bit of a hole if he didn't fix it right now, like if he hasn't fixed it. We have UFC Fight Night Maia versus Usman. Pantoja, he sub Moreno. He sub Moreno on tough, but this was, I believe he beat Moreno by decision, yeah. This was very good considering where Brandon Moreno is now. This win has aged one of his best wins by far. He's able to hammer, get Moreno bloodied up. It's crazy because Moreno is pretty good. Right here we have Magny versus Ponzinibbio Fight Night. He submits Ulka Saski via rear naked choke in round 1. So as I said, he wasn't really on his back. When we see him on his back, he still works from the bottom. Not only does he work from the bottom, but he's able to reverse this. Look, he does something that Charles Oliveira is very good at, where with his feet, he can take your back with his butterfly guard. And that's one of his best techniques. So he can definitely scramble against Steve Erceg. He's on his back. Steve Erceg's trying to control him. And he reverses Steve Erceg. And then once he's on his back, that's where you have to be careful because a lot of people aren't good at defending their submissions. I think Alexandre Pantoja is a black belt in BJJ. He's a BJJ specialist, if I believe. I'm just going to fast forward just to see where he flattens him out. This is where I wanted it. Right here, where he's able to pull him into his direction with the squeeze. And then he tightens it, and then we go. I thought that this was insane because it shows how he starts, and then he starts to sink in. It's like he drowns you, and then he gets you with the choke. And that's it. And then right here we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Wilson Reyes. He TKOs him in round 1. So not only does he have submissions, but he also has knockout power. And this is how he cracked. He beat number 4 contender at flyweight. Flyweight's shallow again, but these are still good wins on your resume because Steve Erceg has beat Matt Schell and he's getting a title shot off of that. So we can definitely tell that flyweight is a little bit shallow. It's crazy because we haven't had a champion since DJ with a long reign in flyweight. The belt has been changing hands a lot. And Alex Perez he's on the come up now. I would like to see Alex Perez get a title shot. July 27, 2019, he loses against Figgy, 30-27, 30-27, 30-27, unanimous decision. I thought he put up a very good fight. It's Deiveson Figueiredo. Deiveson Figueiredo, former flyweight champ, beat Cody Garbrandt in bantamweight and beat Rob Font in bantamweight. So Deiveson Figueiredo is a problem for almost anybody. So the fact that you can go toe to toe with Deiveson Figueiredo and can land and give him, this is where Brandon Moreno was able to succeed. He was able to get Deiveson Figueiredo tired. But Pantoja was just scrapping with him for 15 minutes. But Pantoja has a chin, bro. This guy has a chin. That's all I'm gonna say. It shows that he's there for all 15, and he can go 5 rounds. Although he didn't go 5 rounds yet. UFC Fight Night Edgar vs Korean Zombie. He KOs Matt Schell in round 1, and this is almost like Steve. It's not exactly like the Erceg KO, but Erceg also KO'd Matt Schell in round 1. Matt Schell is he's a little bit chinny, but that's what I'm talking about. Alexandre Pantoja is a little bit sloppy when he obviously he was able to get the knockout, but in sequences like this, it reminds me of when Conor McGregor was leaning and he missed the Dustin Poirier left hand, and he was so off. His arm is all the way over here. Your arm should never be there when you're boxing inside the pocket. It leaves you open. But Alexandre Pantoja has power, insane amount of power, and that's why he's able to finish Matt Schell. But a technical guy can capitalize on that, like a guy like Brandon Moreno, a guy like maybe Davison. But he has gotten way better. UFC Fight Night Figueiredo versus Benavidez. He loses unanimous decision against Oscar Alaskarov. So this guy is no longer in the UFC, but he's deaf. And he was a guy who many thought was going to challenge for the belt. So a lot of Pantoja's losses are by decision, but they're two prospects at the time that were on the run for their title. For a title, they were on the run, on a title run. Alaskarov is very good. He lost to Kara France, and then that was his last fight in the UFC. But they had a very good war. And it's wrestling again. So, Davison is a little bit different, but when he lost to his first opponent, his first loss in the UFC, which was against Dustin Ortiz, it was the wrestling. And then right here, it was the wrestling as well, which made him lose against Alaskarov. Right here, he fights Manel Cape. He wins via unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, and then some even gave him 30-27. Manel Cape was supposed to fight Mateus Nicolau, but Alex Perez stepped in. Manel Cape is also a guy who's on a title run who can at any moment get a title shot. It's just that he has to be a little bit more, he has to make weight. But Pantoja was able to beat him, and it shows that Pantoja can beat very different styles, not only one-dimensional fighters. He beats people who are also very good strikers and very technical, because many would say that Manel Cap is a little bit more technical than Alexandre Pantoja. Cannonier versus Gaslam, UFC on ESPN. Brandon Royval in round 2, he submits via rear naked choke. So they fought twice already. He submitted Royval in the first fight, and in the second fight, he went to decision with Royval, and Royval is a beast. Royval, I thought should have, I wouldn't be surprised if he got the title shot, but Steve Erceg put his name in the hat. But Royval is on the edge of a title shot too, because he just beat Brandon Moreno. I'm just going to skip till we get to the finish. He's able to submit Brandon Royval. His rear naked choke is one of the best rear naked chokes in the game. It's almost like Aljamain Sterling's, where Aljamain Sterling was able to get Corey Sandhagen in under 3 minutes and submit him. It's crazy because some people who are very good can just take your back, and that's all they need. Pantoja bulldozes Alex Perez. This is crazy too, considering how good Alex Perez is now. This win has aged like a fine wine. He just mauls him and he submits him. He gets on his back, submits him. Alex Perez has beaten Mateus Nicolau by knockout, and I think Alex Perez is climbing up the rankings as well. And I didn't think Alex Perez was this good. Yeah, I thought he was a tin can at the time, but Alex Perez has shown that he's a veteran. And a lot of people that try to climb up the rankings can't beat Alex Perez. So if you can beat Alex Perez, you're championship material, I believe. And then he squeezes. And it's crazy because Alexandre Pantoja is able to stay on your back for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and this is right before the Brandon Royval, right before he got his title shot against Brandon Moreno, and then he ends up beating Brandon Moreno, defending against Brandon Royval decision, and then now he's defending against Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg with a record of 12-1. He faces Alexandre Pantoja at UFC 301. We look at all of his right here. His MMA debut. So in his MMA debut as a flyweight, Erceg defeats Robert. So this guy is mostly base grappler, but if I see a lot of, like, I was looking at this whole thread, I see a lot of things where he drops the guy and then he club and sub. So the guy gets dropped and then he gets a submission. So as we see here, he drops him. Let me just replay it with a head kick, and the head kick goes through the guard, kind of like the Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. It goes through the guard, wraps around, and this is where he gets the club and sub. He goes for the submission. He's mostly a grappler, but he has fallen in love with his hands a little bit lately, and he submits him. I thought that was amazing. And then right here we have him against in Hex. So right here it was MMA debut, CDL Supercard, and right here he's already in a different organization. Hex Fight Series 11. Erceg suffers his first loss, but it was unanimous decision, and he could have arguably won this loss. If you look at it closely, he could have arguably won this fight. He has a tight submission in, I don't know if it's round 2 or 3, but he doesn't end up getting it. And it was a pretty close battle. He has top control. These are just the highlights. But I believe maybe the guy won the first and second, and then he lost, and then he won the third round. But this could arguably have been Erceg's fight as well. So he arguably could have won that. But he loses unanimous decision. So that's his first ever loss and his only loss on his record. Right here, Hex Fight Series 15. He fights 4 events after. On July 21st, 2018, Erceg rebounds, defeating Choi Song-guk via unanimous decision. But I believe he drops him in this fight too. It's crazy because a lot of people would say that I'm crazy, but I would consider Erceg a little bit like a Corey Sandhagen of flyweight division, because Erceg is more technical than Pantoja, but the only thing that's different about Corey and him is that he's a little bit more of a grappler, but Corey is grappling as well, but Erceg has submissions. I think Corey and Erceg have a lot of similarities in their footwork, like little things like that. When you move outside of the way of the kick, it's like things that, like, a lot of people who are bouncy, like a Stephen Thompson, can get out of the way and evade. And this is a very tight cage. This cage is like almost 30, significantly smaller than the UFC cage. So it favors grapplers. He's still able to beat Erceg's still able to scrap with him. He's able to show good scrambles. He's able to show great takedown defense, and he's able to show top control. And he has a little bit of a back control too. And he's very good at taking the back, and he also has rear naked chokes like Pantoja. So it's actually going to be very interesting seeing them clash. But he beat him by unanimous decision. So he's mainly a grappler, but he does have hands. Right here, Eternal MMA 41, Erceg's debut in Eternal MMA, one of the bigger regional promotions in Australia, defeats Mark Familiari via rear naked choke round 1. It's crazy because, they both had very good fights, not only their debut, but they both had almost similar careers and trajectory to the title. I'm just going to fast forward just a little bit. It's almost like the same way Pantoja takes him down and, pulls him down and then gets the rear naked choke. They're both very good. I saw somebody say that Steve Erceg only trains at like some very bad judo place, but Steve Erceg has very good judo in my opinion. I don't know if it's as good as Pantoja's, but it's very good. Eternal MMA 45, May 25th, 2019. He submits Tim Moore via arm triangle choke. This is something that I would say he's a little bit more diverse in his submissions and his arsenal submissions. He has more tools. Like arm triangle is a little bit is something that I've never seen Pantoja do. I see Pantoja rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke. I've never seen Pantoja get an arm bar, an arm triangle, or like some other type of submissions like a guillotine, which is what, although he can, I don't see him go for it. And that's something that makes a difference whether you go for it or not. Let me just fast forward just so we could get the arm triangle. He's able to get the arm triangle as the guy's turning as well. It's let's see how he gets it. Top control goes to the side. His arm is around his arm, and he's still able to choke him out. He's more diverse with his submission game, in my opinion. But Pantoja has a better rear naked choke. September 7th, 2019, Eternal MMA 47. Erceg gets his first KO of his career, finishing Paul Loan or Paul Luga in round 1. Eternal MMA is a great promotion for Australia. He got him with a left hook. It's crazy because Erceg. This is when Erceg falls in love with his hands, and he ends up being rightfully so because he ends up being more comfortable in the striking department because his grappling is so good. March 7th, 2020, Eternal MMA 52, Erceg fights for the flyweight title. He defeats Shannon Raw via rear naked choke in round 1. So this is almost exactly like in UFC. He had a fast track to the title in Eternal MMA, and when he gets there, he's able to act fast and he wins the belt. 2 minutes and 13 seconds into round 1, I mean. Just because I know there's a lot of ground control, I just wanted to see the submission, and you can see how tight it is under his neck. Like, that guy would never get out of that. There's no way. And he's flattened out. Look at where his legs are. His legs are all the way over here. So Erceg not only has the ability where he gets the rear naked choke, but he does something that Pantoja doesn't, normally do. Like, Pantoja gets the rear naked choke sometimes when he's on you, but Erceg can flatten you out, and that can make you a little bit more uncomfortable. Right here we have Eternal MMA 60. Erceg moves up to 135 on short notice. He faces Cody Haddon in a close fight. Erceg finds a pivotal moment in the third round to secure mount and win the fight. So it's a lot of scrambles. That was Erceg who went for that little scramble too, which is an amazing inside trip, I believe. I'm not sure. Yeah, like an inside trip. But he goes for it. That's something that I haven't seen Pantoja do. And also like this is what I'm talking about. The flattening out. When he's on you, he can flatten you out. Very great top control. I think his top control is a little bit better than Pantoja's. I know Pantoja has very good back control, but I haven't seen Pantoja in mount. I saw Royval, get be the fresher fighter in rounds 4 and 5 against Pantoja, and Pantoja would just lay on him. He didn't really have a lot of tool. I mean, I know Pantoja was tired, but Erceg looks for the finish. Erceg makes his first and only defense of the 125 titles, rematching Paul Luga. This time he finishes him with a guillotine choke in round 1. Let's just watch the whole sequence. So he's very good at rematches as well. And he capitalizes off of the guy slipping. His guillotine's very tight. I think Pantoja goes to sleep. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people are like questioning whether they don't really like Steve Erceg or they don't really know a lot about Steve Erceg. But if you watch his Eternal MMA fights, all of his run to the title was fast, and it's exactly like it is in the UFC. And not only that, but he's faced almost every single type of style. And I try to find like a style like Pantoja, but this is like a mirror fight. Erceg's last fight in Eternal MMA defeats Charo, rear naked choke, non-title bout. He's gone up in weight. He's come down. He's been successful. He's only lost one time. And he has a lot of rear naked chokes and different submissions just like Pantoja. He gets it. And then the guy taps. And then June, this is when he makes his UFC debut against David Dovorak. UFC 289. Erceg makes his debut on short notice. And he pulls off upset and wins via unanimous decision 29-28, 30-27, 29-28. I thought that this was one of his by far best performances. He looked very good. He had David Dovorak on skates, and he had David Dovorak uh, looking like an amateur, considering that this was his UFC debut. and David Dovorak was a veteran. Then he has this guy against Alessandro Costa, who's also fighting on UFC 301. Erceg takes on Alexandre Costa. Costa was aggressive enough to take the second round, but Erceg, well-rounded skill set, won him the first and the second round. And the third. Wins via unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. Costa was able to get him down, and Costa was able to show him a little bit of adversity. But if he can beat a guy like Costa, who's like a power puncher, and have success, he can have success with Pantoja. I'm not saying he can win, but he can have a lot of success in the scrambling department. I feel like this is most likely going to be a striking fight, and Pantoja will try to wrestle 4 and 5, or if not, maybe second, third. But if he tries to shoot early, he's not going to be able to get him early. I have to see Erceg's cardio, because he has a lot of fast finishes, but if Erceg's cardio is there, and he's like a Corey Sandhagen, like how I say, I can predict Erceg to win this fight by unanimous decision or by a rear naked or like an arm triangle. And it's crazy because Pantoja has that as well. So if you want to go like fight ends by submission, that's not a bad play. Erceg makes the most of his fight versus Matt Schell, scores a highlight reel KO. In doing so, stealing away title shot from Muhammad Mokaev, who fought on the same card. So Muhammad Mokaev had a shit performance against Alex Perez, and it's crazy because Alex Perez was able to get a fight against Mateus Nicolau, which was a better fight for him than Mokaev. And Erceg beats Mokaev to the title shot because he had a way better performance than Mokaev did. Let's just break that down. Let's just break that down real slow. It goes 1. He didn't want to land the first one. It was just to set up the second. 1 to the body. Well, 1, 2. 2 goes to the body and then upstairs. Fake. Body punch. And then left hook of hell. Sleeps him. Guys, if you guys enjoyed this breakdown and this thread, let me know in the comments who you guys have for the main event, UFC 301, Rio de Janeiro, and new for me. Let me know who you guys got. I got my boy Steve Erceg. Let me know what you guys think. Sometimes there's a good double chance of Pantoja by submission or by decision. I see this going all 5 rounds, and I see the over 3.5 hitting, and I see that this is going to be a war in not only the scrambles, but the striking department as well. And whoever has the back control can have a little bit of success, and whoever's leading the fight and controlling the octagon, staying in the center of the black line, can definitely take a lot of the rounds, because I believe that this can even be a split decision. This is going to be a close fight. This is going to be a banger. Let me know, guys. Drop a like on the video, guys. And let me know if you guys want one of Jose Aldo and Jonathan Martinez, because this is a stacked card. I thought UFC 301 was lackluster, but this card is actually stacked. It's just that we got blessed with 300, so we don't really appreciate 301. But 301 is awesome. Let's go, guys. See you at the top. Enjoy the fights. Peace. Yay.